right? It comes and it has its peak, and then if you're patient enough, what happens? It goes away, right? This is there's a lot of the two greatest, things that the shaitan plays on, and the major things that lead us astray. One is shahawat, the other one is shubuhat. Shubuhat is misconceptions. So those are the two main aspects, things that lead us away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Shahawat and shubuhat. So shahawat is desires, shubuhat is misconceptions. The cure for shubuhat, misconceptions, is what? Knowledge. And the cure for shahawat is sabr, patience. Right? Be patient. It's a fleeting moment, inshallah. Right? And you can do several things that can help you become that patient. Remove yourself from the situation, but whatever the case is, we can have an entire halaqah of how to become patient with it. But that's the basics of it. Okay? So if you're patient enough with it, it will go away. Right? And then also add to that, if you ask dua from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you have the righteous companionship, and you're conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is important. It really does help. Right? Doesn't that protect us from falling into temptation? Alright, another one is what? How about thinking of consequences? You remember we talked about the definition? Right? When we talk about falling into temptation, it's following your desires without prior thought and foresight of consequences. That's a huge issue. Now if a person is, because he's conscious, one of the things that they can do is think about the consequences. A lot of times this will help deter us. Because who is willing to exchange, right, the possibility of punishment in the hellfire, the anger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with a fleeting moment of enjoyment or falling into your desire? If you put it this way, how many of us are willing to do that? Raise your hand. Now I know you're not raising it, but it's either because mashallah, you're awake and you understand the question, or you're not awake. So I'm going to assume, mashallah, you guys are all awake. But none of us would do that, right? If we really just think about the consequences, right? If you think about those consequences, the repercussions of our own actions, think about who you're disobeying, it does have an effect.
But this point comes under knowledge, right?
No, not every basic one of us knows this, right? Not even least knowledgeable of Muslims understand these consequences. Is that right or wrong? Right? Yes, the more knowledge you have, the more understanding you have, that is true. But the basics of it is still always there. Is think of the consequences. Think of who we're disobeying. And so this does have a powerful effect that, alhamdulillah, sometimes deters us from falling to sin. All right, so I think we covered enough, but hopefully if you remember these, I think we're about 6 or 7 so far. That should be enough, inshallah. Now that in the end would lead to, if your weakness is your phone, then what are you going to do with your phone? If your weakness is your phone, what are you going to do with your phone?
Use for just the purpose.
Shut it off.
Or buy a flip phone. Shut it off, yes. Right? Or put a limit to it, or give it to your spouse, or give it to your parents, or whatever the case is, you'll find a mechanism one way or another, right? But if that's your weakness, right? But we all have our own weaknesses one way or another. We're not created equal in terms of what our test is. Okay? Yes, overall we are tested, but each one of us has their strength, similar to they have their own weaknesses. Some of us, certain type of worships is facilitated for easier. This is why we have more of it. Similarly, some of us have certain sins that it becomes more easier for us to fall into those sins. We're more inclined to it other than others. We have to understand that. And so it's a good idea to understand what our strengths and our weaknesses. Again, we kind of mentioned that. Sharaq is at what time? Alright, so I'm going to stop here just in case any questions. Now I want to address there was a beautiful question over here, right? And hopefully, inshallah, we can answer it. Actually, no, we didn't address what we do. Let me talk about what we do if once we fall into sin, right? The obvious one is repent. Is that right?
Tawbah.
Tawbah. Now, when we talk about tawbah, it includes what?
Acknowledging the sin.
Hold on, stop. Acknowledging, good. Acknowledging the sin. Acknowledging you did something wrong. You stop immediately. Okay? And then?
Seek forgiveness.
Seek forgiveness.
Not do it again.
Well, not just not do it in, right? Have the intention of never to do it again. Okay, so for me, if I fall into a sin and I ask for forgiveness and I regret it, I know I did it wrong, but I intend to do it tomorrow, that's not really a full repentance. Okay. Now, once again, even the pious individuals will fall into sin. The difference is what kind of level of sin they fall into. Right? The person who is heedless when they fall into sin is not exactly the same as the person who is pious. But what differentiates really a person who is considered sinful or heedless and the pious is their reaction. Okay? وَالَّذِينَ إِذَا فَعَلُوا فَاحِشَةً أَوْ ظَلَمُوا أَنفُسَهُمْ ذَكَرُوا اللَّهَ فَاسْتَغْفَرُوا ذُنُوبَهُمْ وَمَن يَغْفِرُ الذُّنُوبَ إِلَّا اللَّهُ وَلَمْ يُصِرُّوا عَلَى مَا فَعَلُوا وَهُمْ يَعْلَمُونَ. Right? And those who have commit a fahisha is usually referring to a major sin, fornication, for example. Okay. أَوْ ظَلَمُوا أَنفُسَهُمْ, they transgress upon themselves. A lot of scholars say it's considered minor sins. What do? ذَكَرُوا اللَّهَ, they remembered Allah. فَاسْتَغْفَرُوا لِذُنُوبِهِمْ, they asked for their sins to be forgiven. وَلَمْ يُصِرُّوا عَلَى مَا فَعَلُوا, that's the other part, right? And did not insist on what they have done. So that's a quick recipe. Now over here, the story of the rahib, right? The monk that was worshipped by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the basic story, if you guys haven't, don't know, I'm just going to go through it quickly. A few brothers wanted to go on trade, so they left, wanted to know where to leave their sister. And so they said the one person we can trust in this village is that monk that worships Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a specific place. We'll leave our daughter with him, or our sister with him. So back and forth, he agreed in the end, and he agreed he'll leave her in this place, by herself, and not, talk to her, do anything, just provide her food.
No interaction.
Sorry?
No interaction.
No interaction, essentially. But the shaitan essentially came to him, right? One way or another, and said, at least check up on her, or at least whatever, talk to her. And then they started talking to her. And then it progressed until he fell into zina. And she became pregnant, and then what did he do?
He killed her.
He killed both of them and buried them. So if you notice, it's one thing after the other, right? Eventually, until the shaitan said, I will help you if you prostrate. And what did he do? He prostrated, okay? Now, where did this all go wrong? Where did it start?
The beginning.
We can try to figure out, but at least we can acknowledge it started at least when he started indulging in the interaction between him and the girl, right? Indulging means that he's not asking do you need food, right? This might be a bit of a necessity, or are you okay, right? No, but more indulging of the conversation in a way that there's a form of enjoyment, right? It went beyond the necessary. Once that conversation goes beyond the necessary, now that is a sin, okay? You're enjoying that conversation with the opposite gender. Now this is something that is only supposed to be left for your spouse usually, right? Or whatever the case is. We're talking about that type of enjoyment, indulging in that conversation, okay? Now that was the first sin, okay? Now if he would have stopped, would he have continued? Maybe not, Allah A'lam, right? But that was the thing, that was the escalation. Now that continuation, remember I said that's continuation of a sin, right? Knowing that now you went from there to another sin, now that you're accumulating, right? Now those sins kind of weigh on us one way or another. And so we move away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our consciousness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala moves away, and then it escalates and it escalates. So yes, even he fell, but why did he fall? Because he did not stop and ask for repentance, right? That is the key part. So it's a very bad thing to say, even if that monk fell, what were we going to be able to do, right? That's a trap from the shaitan in the first place, right? Just give up. If a monk fell into it, even you will fall into it, right? There's no hope for you. That is a gateway from shaitan, so you have to be careful. No, there is a way, right? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not tell us you're going to be angels. He told us you are going to sin, right? Kull ibn Adam khata, right? Every human being will fall to sin, but we know what we should do. Stop, not be like the shaitan and continue, but be like Adam and stop and ask for forgiveness. Right?
One scholar in explaining this says that one thing it proves that shaitan has great patience than compared to Bani Adam.
Oh, he has immense patience.
He did it in a very step-by-step way.
Once again, the shaitan is not going to, it depends on your situation, right? So if it depends on the individual. We're talking about to take an individual from the pious level of piety all the way to the end out of Islam, it'll take a long-term plan, baby steps. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَلَا تَتَّبِعُوا خُطُوَاتِ الشَّيْطَانِ. He didn't say don't follow the shaitan, he said don't follow the footsteps of the shaitan. It's footsteps, right? A footstep is not something that's large. Now if I ask you to move from here to there, okay, you're gonna be like, no, this is too far. It's a lazy age we live in, okay? We want to be carried to the elevator. But if I tell you, no, move from here to here, what are you going to do? You're going to take that one step, right? And that's what the shaitan does. It was one step to the next. And guaranteed, most individuals who have moved away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it might not necessarily have happened all of a sudden, right? It's usually step by step. Wallah. I think the shut-up time is here. Is that right?
No.
No.
10 minutes.
طيب. To be honest, my voice is getting destroyed here. But do you have any more questions, I guess? No more questions? طيب خلاص. We'll do dhikr, do your morning adhkar until, how many more minutes we said? Or 10 more minutes? 9 more minutes. Don't take away my 1 minute, please. So inshallah, we'll leave you for 10 minutes. If you have any sort of questions, we can talk afterwards. But it's a good idea to kind of do your remembrance, inshallah, of the morning. Once again, things that help us protect us. جزاكم الله خير. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك. أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.